Now, Mr. President, I'd like to just make a few comments on a second-degree amendment that I added to one of these amendments the week before we left last week, which we call the Semper Fi Amendment. This is an amendment that's not germane and will fall after cloture, but still deserves some comment. The Semper Fi Amendment is named in honor of the Marine motto, which means always faithful, and it's a bill which I introduced after the Berkeley, California City Council voted to refer to our Marines as unwelcome intruders and had proposed that they leave town, that their recruiting office actually leave town. When I heard of this, it just immediately angered me, and we developed this bill which would simply take away about $2 million of wasteful federal earmarks, which were not voted on in the Senate or the House, but were added as what we call report language. We're not trying to take away all their federal funding, but simply to say if they're not going to respect our Marines or their mission, which part of it is recruiting, then certainly they should not be the beneficiary of taxpayer-funded earmarks, certainly those that aren't necessary. When I first introduced this bill, it was more of just to make a point and maybe rattle the cages of the City Council, because I know that all the people in Berkeley don't feel this way. If anyone looked at the video, and it was one of the most watched videos on YouTube, you could see person after person stepping up and maligning our Marines in the job that they are doing, not only in Iraq, but throughout history, referred to them as murderers and thugs. Unthinkable things being said about the same Marines that provided them the freedom, their freedom of speech. Some have said by me introducing this bill that I'm against freedom of speech, and that's not it at all. In fact, the anti-American group Code Pink had been demonstrating for months in front of the Marine Recruitment Office there in Berkeley. And I have no problem with that. They have every right. But they wanted more than freedom of speech. They wanted the power of the local government behind them to give them an advantage over those who supported the Marines, supported their mission, and supported our country. So City Council voted to give Code Pink a free parking place in front of the Marine Recruitment Office. Also voted to give them a permit to use a bullhorn, a megaphone, to shout down any who would want to come into that recruitment office. That's not free speech. That's government-sponsored political agenda that took the side of a few liberal demonstrators against the traditional Americans and the Marines who have fought for our freedom of speech. My amendment got a fair amount of attention and a lot of supporters here in the Senate, which I appreciate. The same bill was also introduced in the House by a number of Republicans. I've been surprised at the response that we've got. Literally thousands of phone calls and emails and letters. What this has exposed to me is this is not just a single event, but it's really exposed a raw wound, not only of our Marines, but everyone serving in uniform and their families. And I've heard it when I've been in Iraq, more than once, when I ask our soldiers, our Marine or airmen, what they need. And the response has often been, just don't forget us. And the letters and emails I've gotten have indicated the same thing, that finally some are standing up for those who are fighting for our freedoms. I was surprised by the response. I've gotten letters at home from mothers who've sent me pictures of their Marines, thanking those of us who have stood up for their Marines. And I've really agonized over the fact that they need someone to stand up for them. But when I go back and see what was said in these chambers and the House chambers and what is governments like the city of Berkeley have done, it should come as no surprise to us that there are doubts in the minds of those who put on the uniform that we support them, that we believe in what they do, and that we support their constitutional mission to recruit and to talk about what we offer in our services. Americans are really concerned about this. The Semper Fi Act, we have tried to get on the floor just for an up or down vote, which we have not been able to do. We tried to pass it unanimous consent, which got 100% Republican support, was blocked on the Democrat side. I added it to an amendment to this bill just to try to get a vote, but it will fall after we vote for cloture. But I promised the Marines and all those in uniform that I'm going to continue to persist until we get a vote on this. Because it's not just about this amendment. It's not just about those of us who support it. It's about letting those who put on the uniform and are willing to fight for our freedoms know that we stand behind them. And when any government at any level takes a position against them, that it is our responsibility here in the Congress to stand up for those Marines and those fighting men and women, and not to allow them to be taken advantage of and intimidated and bullied by some local government like we saw from Berkeley. I've been happy to see that some local governments across the country have actually passed resolutions in support of the Marine recruiters. And I would appreciate any across this country who stand up and make a statement on behalf of those who are fighting for our freedom. Again, I want to emphasize that anyone who wants to speak out in protest against Marine recruiters, against the Iraq war, or anything, it's their free right. But when government, whether it's a local government or a state government, takes a position against our federal constitutional amendment to defend this country, which requires the recruitment of Marines and soldiers and airmen and Coast Guard, that's part of our job. And it's not freedom of speech when a local government takes a position against what we're charged to do here at the federal level. And I want to encourage all those parents, all those in uniform, that there are the majority of those here in the Senate and in the House and across this country that respect and appreciate what you're doing every day. I just got back from Iraq last week, and 2 days on the ground. And I know I speak for all of my colleagues when I'm never prouder of my country and what I do here than when I stand with those in uniform who are sacrificing many times more than a year away from their family, several times, second and third tours. They're fighting for us, and we need to stand up for them. And I'm going to continue to persist until my colleagues give me a chance to stand with our Marines and to support the Semper Fi bill.